Wait, where's my pencil? Nope. 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 I just need a sharpened pencil. Man, that took forever. Okay, maybe that's a little bit overly dramatic, but we've all been there. You're in the zone, you're working on something, and your momentum comes to a screeching halt because you just can't find that one thing that you need. Finding a pencil might not seem like a very big deal until you can't find a pencil. I made this thing by accident, and I use it all the time. But let's see if we can make it better. Maybe we can save you some time too. This is a piece of nylon. 100 years ago, a friend gave me a big piece of nylon. I didn't have any use for it, so I stuck it in a drawer and I forgot about it. You know the drill. Speaking of drills, a little while later, I found that nylon again, put it up in the drill press and drilled a single hole, just to see what it was like. Lo and behold, that one hole perfectly fit the handle of my X-Acto knife. And from there, it all got started. Now I was just messing around at the time, so I drilled a couple more holes and I used it as a pencil holder. And I made this. I didn't have a plan. I literally just drilled some holes. What I found over time is that whenever I was looking for a pencil or an X-Acto knife and I couldn't find one right away, I would always just walk across my studio to get this one. And that got me thinking, why was I doing that? I mean, I have pencils and X-Acto knives in other places in my studio, but I would always come use this one. And initially I thought it was a very simple answer. This block has a place for these tools, and so I would use them and I would always put them back. And because I would put them back, they would always be there the next time so I could use them again. I assume that this inclination to have a special place for my tools came from my time in the Navy. You see, I used to work on airplanes on aircraft carriers, and all of our toolboxes had very specific places for all of the tools, and this was for safety reasons. If a tool went missing, the planes couldn't leave because they were worried that it might be in the engine somewhere. But when I thought about it more, I began to realize that what this was really doing was freeing up mental space. I would often carry a pencil around with me, stick it behind my ear in my back pocket, but eventually I would set it down. Sometimes it would just disappear. But I never stressed about it because I knew that I could always just walk right across the shop and grab one of these. And it just made my workflow smoother and I just got more done. It's such a simple hack, but it really works. And so I started thinking to myself, how could I recreate this system in a much more repeatable way? Of course, the first thing I thought was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This seems to be working, just make some more of these. But the nylon's kind of expensive, and I wanted something that I could customize because while the X-Acto knife and the pencil I use quite often, this little hand drill, super cool, but I use it like maybe twice a year. This is where I began to reverse engineer the problem. I started to think, where am I keeping these kinds of tools now? Unfortunately, the answer is this, some kind of cup or jar, which is great for holding pencils and other things, but it's not very organized. And what I'm looking for is something more like this. That's when it dawned on me that there's some wisdom in the cup. It's not great for organization, but it very easily holds the things that I want it to hold. That's when the light bulb went off. What if we start here and then find a way to end here? Enter the mason jar. This is going to be a perfect place to start. It's nice and heavy, it's got a standardized size and shape, and if we're careful and purposeful with our design, then we can make something that will go on any mason jar anywhere. The plan is to 3D print a cap that will go over the top of the mason jar, and we'll have individual holes for whichever tools we decide to use for this particular prototype. This means the top will be fully customizable. We can change the shape and size of the holes in the computer and print out different versions. That way, different caps can hold different kinds of tools. The first thing we're going to need to do is take some really good measurements of the jar and then of course whichever tools we're going to use. Then hop over on the computer, build a 3D model, can print the model out, test fit everything and see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll send it back to the computer and make adjustments and we'll iterate until we get it right. Okay, so here's everything we got to measure for this build. First and foremost, we got to take measurements of the jar. That's going to tell us how big our cap is going to be. I've chosen for this particular iteration to use these 3 tools. The first one's going to be the X-Acto knife. I like the number 1s with the smaller handles. They're just a little more nimble. I use this all the time for cutting small things, shaving off little corners or something, or even just opening a package. It's, second in use to my pocket knife that I carry with me every day. Next is we're going to need a good pencil. I really like these black wings, mostly because they write really nice and the erasers are really good, but also because they're so unusual that when I go on site to work, if somebody else takes off with my pencil, I know it almost immediately. And then the last one is the Scribe. This one's made by Ulman. This is a rather new one. I have one that's about 20 years old, and the corner piece has been worn down to a nub. But I use it for all kinds of stuff. Scribing lines on aluminum or steel. I'm often using this to fish things out if I get something stuck somewhere, or even doing center punching for if I'm going to drill a hole or drive a screw. It's nice and sharp. It's tool steel, and they work great. So these are going to be the 3 things I want for this particular prototype. I think they're going to be great to have placed in the shop somewhere so that I can get to them easily whenever I want, and preferably have more than one of these. So let's get to measure. Okay, I'm going to use my calipers for this, mostly because I know I'm going to be 3D printing in the end, so I like to work in metric whenever I do that, and this I can switch back and forth between metric and imperial. So I'll set this to metric, and then I'll start to take my measurements. Okay, that's that. Let's get on the computer. So here's the final version, and I think it came out pretty well. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of geeking out about it. I've actually had these for about a week now, and I have a couple of them in my shop, one next to my chop saw and one on my desk. And I use it so much. Like, it's just so nice to have this little place where I can have these essential tools and I can get to them, and then when I'm done, I put them back. And it makes things so tidy. I don't have to go looking around for stuff. And I can just see this being like a permanent fixture in my shop. Now, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be a place in everybody's shop or studio or house for the ubiquitous jar with pencils and stuff in it. It's the 100-year drawer that you have in your kitchen. This is the shop version. But this is way more functional. It's literally a joyful experience to need a pencil and to just go pull it out of this and use it and then put it back. It's a game changer. Ultimately, the goal of this project was to try to turn this into something more customizable, something that I could repeat over and over again. And I'd say I'd call this one a win. Obviously, this took more than one try. We went through several iterations before we finally landed on something that was working the way that I want. We definitely made a lot of mistakes. Some of them were me. Some of them were not me. Now I'm looking at you. After about the third version, I realized I was going to have to tweak the computer model. What I needed was a way to keep the main body, but be able to change the holes at will. So I separated the two out and now if I want to change the kind of tool that goes in here, it's a much easier process. Once the structural things started to get fleshed out and the whole project was starting to come into focus, I started to think about how this was going to look in my shop. And what I wanted was to have something that was very high vis. I wanted you to be able to see it from a distance. So I had some of this shiny blue filament already, and I thought this would be a good way to go. But after printing out a couple, I realized that what I wanted was something red. Does this look like red to you? Anyway, it works for now. Maybe I'll print out some more later. This has worked out so well, I definitely want to make some other versions of these. I'm not sure which tools I need them to hold yet, but I'll think about that. I'll also provide the STL file down below, so if you want to print this out yourself, feel free. All you need is a mason jar. So what do you think? Would this work for you, or do you need a different set of tools? Let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll make a new version. As always, like and subscribe. This has been a lot of fun, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yoink.